Hello there, ladies and gentlemen. Nick here. I've got my headphones on just in case I need to hear sound. Although I don't really think I'm going to be listening to anything. I'll put them here for now. So, actually, yeah, I probably don't need them. They're just over here. If I do, got a new desk layout section downstairs. So, it's a little bit bigger, got a bit more space. Stuff. Anyways, ignore the fan in the background sound wise. So this live stream I'm doing today is in celebration of me being a Doctor Who fan for 20 years to this date, the 27th of May 2026 is the 20th anniversary since I got into Doctor Who on the same date in 2006 with the broadcast of The Idiot's Lantern from Series 2 of the Revival, Season 28 overall. Yeah, got a Series 2 Fiend Desk mug. I've not got coffee in it. It's apple juice. I had a coffee with me lunch not too long ago. So, by the way, if anyone does turn up, because this will be able to be viewed after it's finished, but anyone does turn up, be free to ask questions or start talking. So I got into Doctor Who with the Idiot's Lantern on this date. I have talked about this quite a few times before, but today is a good time to talk about it again. Yeah, I had seen some episodes, or at least bits of episodes before. I saw a bit of Rose, where Mickey being pulled into the bin, and a bit at the end of the world with the janitor being pulled into the ventilation shaft after talking to Rose, and I think a bit of the Christmas invasion, at least towards the end, with the 10th Doctor standoff towards Harriet Jones. I'm not entirely sure how much of that story I did see. But probably did watch that, and that I remembered watching that bit at the very least. But those are the only real three I think I may have watched, or at least parts of, before this episode. Although I did have some friends at school who were watching the show, and one of them was hoping to get back after birthday tea here. They were gonna watch Age of Steel after they got back home. But on this date, 27th of May 2006, when I watched The Idiot's Lantern for the first time, I think I might have missed the at least the first part of the pre-title scene, at the very start at least. But definitely saw the episode then. I think the same happened with the Impossible Planet the week after. We missed the first 30 seconds, minute, and it still feels a little strange for these two episodes watching that. The first 2 or so minutes, and Fear Her as well. I think Fear Her we missed like the first couple minutes, perhaps. But Satan Pit onwards, aside from Fear Her, well, Satan Pit, Love and Monsters, and the last 2 episodes, definitely from the beginning. For the rest of the series, yeah, this is a kind of a momentous occasion, and I wanted to do a video about it, but because I had other videos going on at the same time, having to edit, you may have seen on the channel a big top 10 ranking for my Doctor Who stories, as well as a 10 honorable mentions. It was supposed to be 5, went up to 6, then 7, and then I was like, okay, just make it another 10, and we'll say not a top 20, but like what would be a top 20, but we're mostly focusing on the top 10. And then these are what would be the next 10 if we were going to 20, plus a dishonorable mention, of course. So that was the big birthday video for last year. I've done a video every year since 2019 for the birthday, although 2023, 2022, I think it just about missed it, and it was like more of a double video on the 22nd. I think it was just managed to get into the 22nd rather than the 21st. So I might have missed that by a few minutes in 2022, but it was I think it was the Last Night in Soho review. So that ended up being a 22nd of May video instead, and I got 2 videos that day. But every other year, has been at least a video on the birthday date, whether that's been a Doctor Who review or something else like the Lupin the Third unboxings. So yeah, this year it was the big top 10 Doctor Who episodes ranking, plus 10 honorable mentions, of course. But I've also been busy doing the Whoniversals and Tooniversals videos, including a TV movie BFI vlog from last Sunday, the 17th, so the Sunday before the last. So the last would have been the 24th. So it's from Sunday 17th. And that should be going out. Time of recording, it's 2 minutes to 2:30 in the afternoon. It's going out at 3 o'clock on Tooniversal. So after this live stream, go to Tooniversals and watch that video. Includes a not quite unboxing, but sort of unopening of my TV movie Blu-ray and 4K Steelbook. This is another momentous day for Doctor Who, as today is the 30th anniversary of the TV movie's UK broadcast. So we've got a double Doctor Who celebration today. Woo! Not that that's not common. Like many episodes have broadcasts on the same day, not counting Christmas Day, of course, because everybody knows that there's been at least 16 episodes broadcast on that day. And this also doesn't cover the spin-offs as well, which would have shared episodes either with each other, themselves, or with the main show. But yeah, I wanted to talk about me being a Doctor Who fan. For the last 20 odd years, not really sure exactly what I was going to talk about, but I knew I wanted to do a video or it would end up being a live stream. I wanted to do something for it. Yeah, and like, by the way, if anyone, because I have seen some people, you have been coming in and out. If anyone does one question, I'll mention it when someone other. There we go. Okay, anyone who is watching right now, you may ask questions or you may get involved in the talking, so the chat's there for. Yeah, I don't do live streams very often. It's actually quite rare, and I've only done a few in the last couple of years. Did a few back in 2017 and 18, and I think I've only done like this, the Earth Agents one, which was 2 really because of some issue on here, but the Earth Agents ones and maybe 1 or 2 others in the last couple of years, because I think I've only did like 2 or 3 since Johnny English Strikes Again trailer reaction, which I think was one of the last ones of the original few live streams. So yeah, comment. So put in the chat any questions, any discussions you want to know. If you are watching now, for those watching later, drop them in the comments section. But yeah, I suppose maybe I could go on and talk a bit more about the next bit of the fandom stage after getting into the series. So Idiot Stanton obviously got me into it. Impossible Planet, I was going to say Asteroids. Impossible Planet probably solidified it more. Like if I enjoyed Idiot Stanton and I wanted to see these characters go and more trips in time and space, fighting baddies and monsters and creatures and villains, and visit locations in the past or another planet in the future, then yeah, obviously, I guess Impossible Planet and Satan Pit probably solidified it more than Idiot's Lantern. I think probably Satan Pit more so because it was a 2-part story. So I think Satan Pit being so good stories, the story episodes, this 2-parter is being such a great story. I think that kind of helped. So even though I jumped on an episode that's not really that fondly looked upon by the fan base, and I just said it's good. Just good with problems. It's got some pretty problems regarding the family abusive, or at least verbally abusive family, and how that story wraps up. But it's a good episode, all things considered. It is one of the weaker ones from series 2, not the weakest. There's 3 I would put below it at least, 2 of which came later. One of which I think is very underrated, but I do understand quite a few of the criticisms, and would rank it as one of the weaker episodes of the series, but with like caveat. which I probably would do for this one as well. Comfortably. So these are two, this and one of the other two, one of the other three towards the end. Lower end of my ranking, two of them towards the end of the series. One of those would be with caveat. The Impossible Planet Safety Pit, I think I did rate either as my favorite or my second favorite story from series 2. I think it was Gun in the Fireplace in my ranking in 2020. I think this one probably came second. Because because Gun in the Fireplace was in the top 10 10th Doctor stories, and I think this one is as well. One of my top 10. There's a lot from series 4 on that, although the highest rated ones are from, I think one of the highest rated is series 3. If you've seen my top 10 stories video, you'd know which one that is. Not that you can be, not that it's difficult to guess. So anyway, the other story I mentioned that I put towards the lower end of series 2, my series 2 ranking, but I think is a little underrated. I think it's better than some people say, is Love and Monsters. So that was the next episode after Satan Pit, and by that point I probably was on board. Love and Monsters, as I've by the 2020 review, with the 2014 Five Who Fans review by Billy Tracy, done in June 2014 for the 8th anniversary of that story. Wow, 2014 was 12 years ago. Blimey. That video's going to be 12 years old next month. I kind of can't believe that, because I was watching them in 2014. I got started with them just before the series 7 part 2 stuff started around late. I think it was with 42 Geronimo Lane, and then I wrapped around the time of series 7 part 2 starting up, because I was watching Mr. TARDIS reviews then, and which 42 Geronimo Lane, and probably got into Five Who Fans there. So I was watching them since end of March, start of April 2013. So the fact that 2014 is 12 years ago is insane. To quote David Tennant in Journey's End, blimey. Love and Monsters. Well, that would have been 20 years ago, but I'm more at ease at Doctor Who Series 2 being 20 years old than, say, Series 8 from 2014 being 12 years old. Like, how is 12 years gone by? Like, not quickly, but like, wait, really? That was 12 years ago? Oof. This is going to be the 10th anniversary of Universals as well. So, wow, that 11th for the initial concept. Blimey, again. So, anyway, Love and Monsters, I use mainly thanks in partial parts to Billy Tracy's review, I realised is an episode more about the fans, not in a mocking way, but kind of like endearing way. But then you got that one fan who comes in and kind of ruins it for everybody. So I think it's a good meta commentary on the fan base, but in a nice way and a less obvious way, like Lux's. That was still nice, but in a more obvious way. While, say, Lucky Day kind of has more of the online grifter crowd and the haters and all them. They kind of well, I suppose it's more like that in general, but it also does kind of cover the toxic fans. But Love and Monsters is definitely a more endearing love letter to the fans about fan esque characters in the story. And I think for the first 2/3 of that story, when I did the review back in 2020, that was really good. That was actually really great. So people calling it one of the worst stories of all time, no. I mean, the last act, okay, that lets it down a little. I mean, it's not awful, but it does let it down. But it's definitely not worst episode of all time. Nowhere near. Even with the third act being a bit of a clunky mess, and even then, it's still a fun clunky mess. And there's a few other questionable bits in there, a couple questionable lines. But overall, this is certainly not one of the worst stories ever made. Maybe like at the time it might have been like one of the first missteps of the series, but then again, you could argue New Earth, which is another one low down on my list. I don't know if you really say anything from series one could be a misstep, maybe personal opinion. But in terms of objectively, I think, and or at the very least in the eyes of the public, I think it probably was this one, this or New Earth. But even then, this episode is like a certain other story that's having its anniversary this year. It's kind of had a bit more of a resurgence over the years, despite the massive backlash for various reasons at the time. Fear Her, however, that one got worse over time. I mean, it was a fun story when I watched it as a kid, but as a teen and young adult, yeah, I see the problems. Again, it's not awful, but I think it's definitely the weakest story from both RTD1 and the 10th Doctor's era. Well, I just said that the other way around. 10th Doctor's era and RTD1 as a whole. And it was I think it might be the weakest since Till the Beast Below. Just got a message. Okay. Weakest since Till the Beast Below, if not maybe to the Rebel Flesh, / the Almost People. Definitely those two. If it maybe the Beast Below is actually, maybe I don't know, I might have given the Beast Below a 6. So either Till the Beast Below or more likely the Rebel Flesh Almost People. Another story, which is another story by the same writer, Matthew Graham, who I'm sure is a talented writer because Life on Mars, Ashes to Ashes have been very well received. And I have seen the first episode of Life on Mars. It was very good. But in terms of Doctor Who, I don't think not quite. I think a third attempt to maybe see another go at it. And I know he's done some short stories for the storybook collections, or at least did 1 or 2. So I have to give those a read again. I haven't read the 2007 ones yet. The 2008 to 10 ones we did read or got read to. But in terms of the 3 episodes, 2 stories, yeah, not quite. It probably would have been a fine choice for Sarah Jane Adventures if based on the Fear Her script, at least, if he had gotten on board for that. To be honest, I'm not really sure what the Stephen Fry episode that it replaced was going to be about. But that would have been interesting to have an episode written by Stephen Fry, but it didn't come to fruition either this series or series 3 when it was initially pushed back to. Yeah, Fear Her isn't really that great. It's not awful. I don't think it's like absolute most worst story of all time. In the 2014 Doctor Who magazine poll, it came second to last. I'm not too sure about the 2023 one overall. I think it did come last in the 10th Doctor ones. But in terms, but overall for 2014's one, it was second to last, just and the lowest rated New Who story as of the time of the Doctor's broadcast. The lowest rated story overall was, to no one's surprise, The Twin Dilemma, which has I think every single poll, it's come last. I think it did come last on the 2023 poll. So say whatever you like about any episode airing after the time of the Doctor, in the end, or at least up to the Power of the Doctor, at least in the end, The Twin Dilemma continues to still be ranked the lowest rated Doctor Who story of all time in the Doctor Who magazine polls. I don't agree with that, but yeah, it's interesting how it happens every time. It's just like how Genesis of the Daleks keeps being third, except the one time it came first. And 2023, it looked like it was going to be the second Fourth Doctor one, but then they cheated. And they did rank the top 3 of each Doctor plus the TV movie, Doctors 1 to 13. And so yeah, obviously that would have been, they would have re-ranked those episodes, and therefore Genesis jumped back to number 1, Fourth Doctor, even though it previously been number 2. So they cheated so it could get back to its number 3 spot overall. They cheated. In my opinion, at least, you could have done that last poll for bonus episodes, like ranking the Trial of Time Lords and Flux episodes individually. Where would you rank Shada in the animated specials? What would you say about the webcasts or Curse of the Fatal Death, the Darling movies? Literally any other possible poll. No, they cheated. They literally cheated. And it was just to get Genesis of the Daleks back into the top 3. Maybe even attempt to get it to number 1 again. Thankfully, a much better episode. I do consider Genesis of the Daleks one of the top 20, but I don't. But I think the two that went above it are much more deserving of their placements. Even though I wouldn't personally put them 1 and 2, I think they are in top 10, as you would have seen in my video last week. They are much more deserving of being a top 2 than I think Genesis is. Nothing against that story. Again, I put that 19th. But yeah, I swear to God, DWM did that just so that Genesis of the Daleks could go back to being a top 3 story at the very least, if not contender for top 2, or at the very least top 5. I'm going to stand by that opinion that they at the very. I don't know about if they did it for any other story, like see if they wanted to guarantee Blink a second place position again, which it didn't. It came 6th. Or one of the other highly popular stories, Case of Angelina came 4th again, just like in the 2013 poll. First in the 2009 poll, very well done for that one, and second in the 98 poll, so that was all Classic Who by that point. At that point, and then 9 was up to Planet of the Dead, and then 13 as of Time of the Doctor, and 14th, and then 23 for Power of the Doctor. So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if they tried to maybe get a couple of other episodes placed a bit higher, maybe even a couple of the episodes that didn't come as high on the individual Doctors ones above some of the top 3 choices, because I don't think Fugitive of the Jadoon would probably score very highly if pitted against half of those Tom Baker or David Tennant episodes, for instance, or what was the highest rating Colin Baker one? That was Vengeance of Varus. I don't know if that one would do as well as some of those Tom Bakers, for instance. So maybe they cheated a little bit to get some of those higher, the higher rated stories of each Doctor a bit higher on the list. I don't know what Doctor Who magazine, what their thought process behind that, but I'm going to stand by the Genesis thing, because I swear to God that was done deliberately to get that into at least the top 5, if not top 3, or even the top 2. You can disagree all you want with that to understand, and unless someone from DWN can explain it more clearly, but I'm standing by that statement, that opinion. Anyway, back to Series 2. So Army of Ghosts and Doomsday. Oh, actually, I forgot to mention, I have mentioned this before, but Love and Monsters was the first time I did quite a TV program, or even a piece of media, as far as I'm aware. I mean, maybe there was something else back before then, but memory serves, this was the first time I tried a piece of media, and Doomsday would be the second. So yeah, 7-year-old me got emotionally moved at it was the Elton's mum bits in Love and Monsters, and then Doomsday was the Doctor and Rose's separation at the very end on the beach, which I think a lot of other people were affected by. So that is definitely going to be a big nostalgia moment, but more so for being sad, because if you attach these characters, and that for me, that was only for 6 episodes. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and 13. Yeah, 7 episodes. Got only 7 episodes, gotten to know them, and of course I would go back. But yeah, it was a very, very emotional moment, very emotional time. But Army of Ghosts and Doomsday was really great at the time. It's still really great now. I think I placed it 7th for my Series 2 ranking, but that's because everything else besides the 4 that came below it, that being New Earth, Idiot's Lantern, Love and Monsters, and Fear Her. Everything else I would put above the Series 2 finale. I really like the Series 2 finale. It is really great. It's probably the second least favorite of RTD 1's finales. End of Time is probably my least favorite. But it's probably a bit cleaner and a little less messy than the next 2 would be, because the next 2 did end up being kind of a bit messy. Great, but messy. So I can it's a bit more smooth, ironed out than those. And yeah, these are really strong stories. Interestingly, I didn't really know much about the Dalek or even the Sidemen, the Daleks or the Sidemen when I first watched them. The Sidemen were made to be a big deal in that Next Time trailer, which covered both episodes that's shown after Fear. Funny enough, the one of only 2 times they've done that, they've done a Next Time trailer and it's shown bits from both the next 2 episodes for a two-parter. So this one, and then also the one at the end of In the Forest of the Night for Dark Water and Death in Heaven. There was quite a bit of footage from Death in Heaven on that trailer as well. Sorry, just looking at something. Just going to be a quick sec. Yes, I did say I was a bit busy. Anyway, so yeah, Army Goes to Doomsday, massive time at the time. Anyway, Cybermen was made to be a big deal in that trailer, so it kind of got the gist of them being a big baddie, a big returning baddie. I just said I was busy. Okay, good. Yeah. Made big bad from the trailer. Probably got told about them as well at the time. As for the Daleks, at the very end, just before the cliffhanger, my mum said to my dad, I think, oh, we haven't had any Daleks this series. And literally a few seconds later, the Daleks came out of that spear and they said, oh, it's the Daleks. Well, they probably said it was the Daleks. I just remember there wasn't any Daleks this series. Then there's some Daleks. Maybe they predicted that. Maybe like what's in the spear. Maybe they predicted that. It might have been just as the Cybermen said the spear was not ours. But literally as soon as we cut back to the spear, that's when the Daleks turn up. So also, and the music's also a massive giveaway. If you know the Dalek music, it's a massive giveaway as it's building up to it. But what a great moment! What an absolute moment! Oh, and also that the Dalek set prop almost spoilt by BAFTA. So maybe that got some people to wonder if the Daleks might be coming back in the finale or something. And also some extermination laser shots in the Next Time trailer that I just mentioned, the one for both episodes from Fear. So, okay, they wanted to make this a massive, great surprise, but they go and spoil it in the trailer. Again, they did that the previous year with Bad Wolf's Next Time trailer after Boomtown, where they spoiled the surprise of the Daleks' return. Oh well, it's not like the Next Time trailers won't go on to spoil other things, like say a cliffhanger or a reveal or something going forward, right? No, of course they bloody would. Next Time trailers are a double-edged sword. On the one hand, they could be very spoiling. On the other hand, it might be something like It Takes You Away, which tells you feck all about the plot. Like they turn up in Norway and Ryan sees something that gives him a fright, and that's it. Yeah, that's probably the worst Next Time trailer. I don't want to bash on the Jodie era right now mostly because it's got too much negativity. But in terms of the worst Next Time trailers, it's easily It Takes You Away from the end, from after the end of The Witchfinders. Resolutions doesn't have a very good one either, but at the very least, that's got a good line from the Doctor. In that, it's basically the Doctor saying something, but it's a really good line. So I'm going to say that's probably the second weakest, but It Takes You Away worse, in my opinion. I'm glad they got a bit better for the next series. Those short ones from Jodie's era. Anyway, yeah, so Army Goes Doomsday. Really great story. After that story, in terms of my fandom development, obviously we were waiting for the Christmas special, The Runaway Bride. That was next. We went on holiday and Gun in the Fireplace did get recorded. So I think we watched that after we got back. I think they what I thought parents had said was an episode had a new episode had aired, but it felt like it had come before Army Goes Doomsday because it was before It Eats Lantern, because it was with Rose, and actually Mickey was with them as well. So it felt like, hang on, wasn't this an episode before, earlier in the series? And yeah, I think it was probably a repeat. That they meant they recorded a repeat of Girl in the Fireplace. And then, of course, come the autumn, BBC Three would repeat both series 1 and 2, all 27 episodes, including the Christmas Invasion, which, by the way, sometime around Peter Capaldi, Jodie Whittaker's era, when they were actually it was before Jodie's, late Matt Smith's era, or into Peter Capaldi's, around that time, BBC Three, and as well as UK TV channels like W, formerly Watch, now the U and channels, so that one, U and W, they got kind of cold feet about showing specials. They would just show the episodes of the as BBC Three being stopped being a terrestrial channel and moving to online for a bit as of series 9. So the 9 series is, say, BBC Three repeated series 4, ends with Journey's End, and then you jump to the 11th hour, you miss out 5 episodes. You don't even know that the 10th Doctor is regenerated by doing that. Same with series 7 to series 8. If you skip 2 episodes and you end on the name of the Doctor, and then suddenly it's Deep Breath. And series 1, of course, ending of Parting the Ways, and then you somehow jump to New Earth and you've missed an episode as well. Yeah, it's a little bit silly doing that. To be honest, I don't think W really shows anything after series 8 anymore. I don't even know if they show series 1. And also, hello to you, Johnny399. Finally, someone's actually decided to put something in the chat. Even though I've had at least 3 people watching at any one point during this over half an hour, like 3 people at most at any one time. Hopefully, the post live stream video version will be more watched. Right, so we're up to the summer of 2006, and now we're up to the autumn now. So watching series 1 on BBC Three for the first time, and I think that's when I realised, oh, that bit with the wheelie bin and that bit with the ventilation shaft, oh, that was Doctor Who, and more so those were the first 2 episodes of the revival. So I did get to see it at Christopher Eccleston back in the day, and then also the I think I might have told this story that was at a friend's house, the same one I mentioned earlier about Age of Steel. Which we around there is kind of more interested in playing the figures instead of watching an episode. More so because I knew I was like, I'm watching these episodes each night anyway, so we're going to get to it eventually. But they put on Father's Day, and then that evening was the repeat of the long game, and the next episode was Father's Day. So I think we also watched Confidential. I think they repeated some Confidential cut downs at least, and episode 5's had a little teaser for episode 6, which was the shot of the Dalek eye stalk out of Rose. Something akin to the spoiler warning preview of the next episode thing for the new episodes more recently from Doctor Who Unleashed, except they don't make a massive deal about it every other 15 minutes. It's like every other 10 to 15 minutes before it actually happens. Like, stay tuned for a massive spoiler sneak preview the next episode. Yeah, if the spoiler preview is the Doctor sonicking a door, like for a cinema, like an old cinema, just sonicking a door and opening it. Oh yeah, wow, massive spoiler. I mean, Unleashed, it's worth watching anyway. But if you're there to wait for the next episode sneak preview, yeah, that one is absolutely a massive disappointment. I've done a video about this on Universal's last year. Go check that out. I ranked them all the sneak previews, clips from Unleashed up to the Reality Wars. Do go check that out. It does not need to be updated because War Between didn't have any. And we're still waiting on the next episode. So anyway, back to better times with 2006. Yeah, so Father's Day obviously was the next episode of the long game. And again, Boomtown's trailer spoiled the Daleks return in Bad Wolf, which at the time was epic. Like, yay, we get to see the Daleks again. we get to know that the next episode has the Daleks, but looking back on it, it's like, but it does spoil the reveal that it was building so well up to. Oh, well, Battle from the Parting of the Ways is a fucking amazing story. Anyway, pardon my language. Absolutely amazing story in general. Again, in the top 10, top 3 is in the top 3 of my ranking from last week. And discounting a certain 50th anniversary special, it is the best story of the revival. So yeah, it is amazing. So that even though the trailer does kind of spoil the surprise, it doesn't spoil the actual story. Also around this time, I swear I mentioned this before, but around the same time, one of those UK TV channels, it might have been Gold this time, was showing some of the Tom Baker stories from seasons 13 and 14. As I remember distinctly, Planet of Evil and later The Face of Evil. Why is it the 2 evil ones I remember? But I remember seeing bits of those, like the start and end of parts 3 and 4 of the former and the end of part 4 of the latter at the very least. I'm not really sure if I saw much of any other episodes from those times, but those, I think I'm going to say Planet of Evil. Planet of Evil, then Face of Evil were probably the earliest 2 classic Who episodes I saw, or at least bits of. In a strange twist of fate, Planet of Evil would end up being one of my last DVDs when collecting the DVDs. It ended up being one of the last ones, along with to complete the collection. Aside from got it in 2018. So after the Enemy of the World special edition came out, so the last that Myths and Legends box set, which is Time Monster, Underworld, Horns of Nimon, and Planet of Evil. Those 5 were the last ones for the collection at that point in time. So everything up to Twice Upon a Time on DVD or Blu-ray. Aside from the missing episodes that hadn't been animated yet. Yeah, that was one of the last ones I needed to get. So, and I had already got the original Enemy of the World. So one of the last 4 stories I needed was Planet of Evil. How did the first Doctor Who story, or I saw a bit of, end up being one of the last ones to get on DVD and one of the last ones I ended up watching? I'm not sure if it was the last one, aside from the stories with missing episodes, which I did watch the recon versions of. But yeah, aside from, I don't know if I would have watched it before or after the 3 stories from Pyramids, Myths and Legends, sorry, or if I watched each story in order properly. It could easily have been the last one. It could easily have been, or it was definitely one of the last 4. Besides the ones that I needed to watch the recons for too, because they were missing episodes and then was up to date before Series 11 came around. Very noisy car out that way. But yeah, how did that happen? You tell me? I guess it just wasn't a priority to get either by me or by somebody else as a present. For like birthdays, Christmas, well done in doing it at school, college, uni, etc., or just picking up in the shop, etc. Maybe it wasn't quite a high on the list kind of to grab, but the story that I think was my first classic series one, at least like watching a bit of, ended up being one of the last ones to get at the time, and one may even have been one of the last. Besides the missing episode recons, one of the last ones to watch before Series 11 started up. Anyway, yeah, a bit of that, saw a bit of that, and then Runaway Bride in 2006. I did not watch Torchwood Series 1. Good idea, but because I was 7, it's not made for 7-year-olds. But Sarah Jane Adventures is made for around that age, and obviously after Runaway Bride, the Sarah Jane Adventures pilot episode, Enemy of the Bane, not Enemy of the Bane, that's Series 2's finale for that show, Invasion of the Bane. Watch that. I swear I have never watched that on repeat. I think I've only ever seen it once, maybe twice at most. I haven't even watched it on the DVD yet. I need to rewatch the DVD or an iPlayer because I was going to do reviews of it as well as Torchwood. So yeah, I mean, it would have been the first one to watch. Then again, Series 1 didn't really get repeated that much either at the time, and I don't think I've really watched Series 5 since it broadcast. So I think the ones I'm mostly familiar with are Series 3 and 4, and maybe 2 as well, because those did actually Series 1 did get some repeats. Come to mention, because I did miss a little bit of Warriors of Kulak when it aired. In fact, I think I did miss Warriors of Kulak when it first episode 1 when it aired, and then caught up with it later on down the line. But I have seen every single Sarah Jane Adventures episode, and as of 2020, I've seen every single Torchwood episode, besides the webcast Web of Lies, which I don't know if that's included on the DVD or not. And full completion, I've seen all of Class, I've seen K9 and Company's Soul episode, I've seen that Daleks webcast spin-off, all 5 of those, and the 5 episodes of War Between the Land and Sea, which I still have yet to rewatch and do a review for, so I do apologize for anyone who was looking forward to my reviews of that series. I just haven't really had the motivation to rewatch that. Not because it's bad well, maybe the last episode isn't really very good. But I just haven't had the incentive to rewatch it and review it. I didn't even have the incentive to do reaction videos to it. So, yeah, sorry about that. Well, maybe later, maybe in the summer. If Disney Plus aren't going to put it out just yet, then I'm a bit more vindified in not putting out reviews or rewatching the series. So Disney Plus haven't even released it to the rest of the world. So I'm a little bit more vindified. Vindified? Yeah, I'm a bit more vindified in that sense. Even though I think most international viewers have watched it thanks to either VPN going onto BBC iPlayer or importing the DVD or Blu-rays or Steelbook. All the much more naughtier pirating, but let's say the more well-behaved stuff, And I suppose VPN's sort of kind of a middle ground between that. I mean, on the one hand, you change your location to access other contents, other countries' stuff. It is a little naughty, but it's also all allowed and legal and all that. So it's sort of a middle ground. Anyway, so yeah, and then of course was pretty much ready to be as a fan for Series 3 when it came around. So Series 3, and what a great series. That was the first series start to finish. I don't think we missed an episode on broadcast. I was a little bit worried we'd be late for Daleks in Manhattan one time. I remember that, but I do not think we missed any episode on the first one, because we have since missed maybe a few at the broadcast time, and we've had to come back later. I think apart from Power of the Doctor, every episode of Series 13 and the first 2 of its specials missed the broadcast. First 5 for work, same for the 2 specials. The 6th one was because I was hanging out at BFI with some friends. So yeah, I had a different job by the time Power of the Doctor aired, so I did not miss that one, thank goodness. And even Revolution of the Daleks, we started eating dinner whilst watching it, but then about 10-11 minutes in, we paused the live pause and went to wash up, and so we kind of didn't watch it entirely live. So even that one, but yeah. And also the series season 1 Bad Hall finale, we missed and we had to catch up the next day, which was somewhat a little bit annoying because it was one of the midnight drops, so it wasn't even just waiting till the evening, but also waiting till the next day. But that being said, said episode probably wasn't worth it anyway, so yeah. But of course, it being a series finale, you'd be still wanting to watch it as soon as possible. But yeah, same with Interstellar Song Contest before. Oh, are we gonna get to see it? Are we gonna get to see it? Yes, the football finished on time. We get to see it before Eurovision. Maybe it wasn't that worth it after all. How am I doing this for an episode that aired just last year? I usually do it for episodes that aired 50, 60 years ago. Or 20 or 30 years ago. As you may have seen earlier in this live stream, or if you'll see in the TV movie vlog. But yeah, series 3 was so good. As I'm not really sure much more I can. I think around series 3 time we went to the Doctor Who exhibition in Cardiff sometime in 2007. Might have been the summer. 2008 we did the Old Court one for around my 9th birthday. Yeah. 9th birthday weekend. I think that was the one that was skipped because of Eurovision. So I guess that sort of filled in the gap there between Unicorn and the Wasp and Science in the Library. I think with series 3s, it was 42 was the most recent episode for that. So that means the episode that would have marked a year since getting into the show would have been, well, the nearest would have been Human Nature. And then the next one, Family of Blood. 2 years, it probably would have been Silent. 2 years later, would have been most recent Unicorn and the Wasp. Next one, Science in the Library, which was also the closest. I'm not going to do every single year, partly because some years, like the next year, 2009, didn't have many, and also there's 20 odd years of it, so I'm not going to go through every single one, especially since some of them don't really have many. And I'm not really sure which episodes would have landed on the exact date. I suppose if 2012 had one air on the Sat in May, it probably would have had one that year. Because I know 2011's had the same dates as 2005's. Actually, no, 2012 was a leap year, so it wouldn't have. Not from the 1st of March, and not up to the 28th of February 2013. So ignore that. Yeah, I'm not really much more to say. I think 2009, knowing that there wasn't a full series was a little frustrating, but we did know that there was more than one episode coming after the next Doctor's. It was 4 specials, although one of them would be 2010. And it's a total of 5 specials with Next Doctor. So 2009 was still a good year as a young fan. It was like taking a bit of a break, but at the same time, not really, because there was still a few episodes. Although I think what was probably more frustrating is when the heck was they going to air the one after Planet of the Dead, which would be the Waters of Mars? When the heck were they going to show that one? I'm not sure. I think a November date was probably a little bit too late for that one. I think maybe. Well, I like the idea of an Halloween special. If not, maybe September or a summer special in August. Or is that too close to Planet of the Dead? Because that one wasn't too long after Next Doctor. Yeah, I think October would have been fine because that's still a right 6 months from the previous one, but it's also not too close to the next one, which is what happened with Waters of Mars. Even though it does lead into it. And then you got Dreamland at the end of that month, in parts, and then in full at the start of December. So it was, and with the Sarah Jane Adventures also being in the autumn, it was kind of, well, I suppose that kind of covers October and a bit of November. So it was really more later in the year stuff that we got, apart from Torchwood, which got the summer slot. In fact, 2008 was very, very varied with stuff because we had Torchwood Series 2, which I did watch most of. Didn't at the time when I was 8. Didn't see the first or the last episodes, and I think I also missed episode 5 on broadcast, but I think I saw the rest. I distinctly remember episodes like the Martha Owen death trilogy, and the wedding episode, and the fairly disappointing circus episode, which, apart from a couple of innocent characters dying at the end of the episode when the breaths of that come out of the vial, when you only get 1 of the 6 victims survive. Other than that, it's very Sarah Jane Adventures episode. I think IMDb said 1 episode was rated PG. I would not be rated, whilst the rest are 12 or more likely 15. Island gave some 18. I would not be surprised if the sole PG-rated episode from Torchwood was Out of the Rain from Series 2, the 10th episode, because that is a much more like family-friendly episode from that series compared to most of the other stuff from the show in general. like just even looking from at the previous episode in terms of like the violence, the sex, the gore, or the next episode in terms of themes and how it is and how it's written for characters and situations and the like everything. That one's a much more tonally adult, that Adrift, as opposed to, well, Something Borrowed is much more adult in terms of the content they throw into it. I mean, they kind of both are, but yeah, but considering you've got the kind of the grown up content like violence, sex, swearing, etc. in episode 9, and the more adult themes and tone of episode 11 for that series, and episode 10 of Tortured Series 2, just it feels like a Sarah Jane Adventures episode, but with the Tortured characters. If there's any strong language, it won't be a PG, obviously, but other than that, I think other than the ending, there isn't really anything that wouldn't fly in a Sarah Jane Adventures episode. And even the ending, like maybe if the family survived and it was just the other two individual characters who died, then that one, even then, I mean, Sarah Jane Adventures, as far as I'm aware, doesn't have a big body count. It's only got he's got a few. It does. It's not none. But I think it's only villains and maybe a few other and a few other supporting characters like the teacher in the first episode of series 1. But it tends to mostly be villains. Most good people don't seem to die in Sarah Jane Adventures. Not that there's no deaths, because it's aimed at the older kids, so there will be some death, but not too much, because it is still aimed at that age range, and it's mostly villains, but not exclusively. But yes, Out of the Rain definitely is a Tortured version. It's basically if Tortured does the Sarah Jane Adventures for a week, besides maybe the 5 deaths at the end. Well, 5 innocent deaths, and it's got the villains as well, but that's even then that's debatable. Were they actually killed? Were they somewhat killed? Well, funny enough, the person who wrote that episode also wrote Small World from the previous series, which is much more adult in themes, and but is also quite silly and also not very good. I'm seeing a pattern here. So I'm coming up to an hour. Coming up to an hour, almost an hour. Yeah. Anyway, I was just talking about Tortured Series 2 for a little bit. But yeah, 2008 was a very varied year with Tortured Series after Voyage of the Damned at Christmas, and then Tortured Series 2 starts up just after New Year, runs until the end of March. About a week or so later, or maybe even a couple of days later, depending on the dates, it was Doctor Who Series 4's premiere, and that ran up, apart from a week off at Eurovision, ran up till the start of July. And then they took the summer off, and then autumn to December was the Sarah. So about September to December was the Sarah Jane Adventures Series 2. Series 1 and 2 were weekly, by the way. Apart from maybe the first 2 episodes of Series 1, which might have been the same day, and then Series 3 and 4 were twice, and 5 were twice weekly. But 5 obviously had less episodes because of the passing of Elizabeth Sladen, and they didn't finish the series. They only got about half of it done. So yeah, but Series 2 was September to December 2008, and of course we were on the waiting for the next Doctor to air. 2009 was also most of it was more later in the year. You could have got Planted to Dead for the first half of the year, and then all the Tortured Series 3 in the summer. In July for a week, Children of Earth. But then September, not even September, because Series 3 twice a week. So October onwards is when we got more stuff. But 2010, Matt Smith. I think I mentioned before, I was wondering how it was going to be handled, because this would be even though I had seen Parting of the Ways, I'd seen the Ninth Doctor regenerate into the 10th, I was experienced the David Tennant era as I tuned in. He was my, even if Retrospective may have been my first Doctor, David Tennant was the Doctor I grew up with at that point. So it's interesting to see the change. I knew, I was prepared for a new actor anyway, because David Tennant was the 10th Doctor, so of course there'd be an 11th Doctor, and I knew at the very least there'd be at least 13. Obviously, there's been more, and it was actually Matt Smith's 11th Doctor who ended up being the last of those first 13. Let's just put that timeless child stuff aside. Besides, it's possible that the Doctors of regenerations were capped going from the first Doctor up to the 11th Doctor, and they need a new set of regenerations anyway. So, yeah, I think the end of that story still plays out as it does. Time the Doctor. So, yeah. But yeah, going into Matt Smith, I did not know what to expect. I wasn't huge on that post-regeneration scene in at the end of Time Part 2 when I first saw it. But the preview on BBC Breakfast, the morning of the 11th hour, was a bit more reassuring. And yeah, within an episode, Matt Smith basically, he proved that he and Stephen Moffat could continue the series without David Tennant and Russell T Davies. And while maybe stuff after that episode, or at the very least after Series 5, wasn't quite as strong, that series, for the most part, and basically proved the show still could carry on. And say what you like about individual episodes, say what you like about the eras as a whole, but hey, even just the individual series, but Series 5 objectively kept the show going. And I think we owe them quite a bit of a debt on that. And anything else, anything after that is a bit more up for debate. And again, individual stuff, of course, like Beast Below isn't that great, for example. I actually like Victor of the Daleks, to be honest. I'm actually one of the few people who really like the Paradigm Daleks. Yeah, they're a bit bright and they're a bit chunky, but it's fun. I actually think whilst the Chrome versions objectively make them better and they're a little slimmer, but I don't know. I have the nostalgia soft spot for the lighter coloured ones. I think, as Stu Badpool put it, it was the fact they were revealed on a very light set. That set was very light. It was a very different type of Dalek ship to what we'd seen previously on the inside, even though it was supposed to be the same on the outside. So if it's been something like how the spaceship interiors from Series 1 and Series 4's finales had looked, then it probably would have been a little bit better, but the bright lighting didn't quite work out. Still, as someone who, like, I was 10 at the time, so as a tween fan of the show, like 10 and 11-year-olds, as a tween fan, then yeah, I liked them. I thought they were great and wanted to see more of them, obviously, when they next came back. We did get that for Series 5 and a bit of 6, less so for Series 7 onwards. And Series 7, I think, is the last TV appearance of them. They're not in Time of the Doctor. Obviously, they have to skip Day of the Doctor. They're not in Time of the Doctor, and they're not any story after that. We can assume they're the ones blown up in Time of the Doctor. But even then, well, I suppose, I don't know how credible that is now because of Victory of the Doctor from, I think it was 2024, might be 25. The last, I think it was last year, actually, Jacob Dubman's last term as the 11th Doctor for Big Finish. I think it was last year, actually, either this time last year or this time in 2024. So whatever they did, and or sometime in between. I'm pretty sure it was last year, though. Correct me if I'm wrong. Yeah. I'm not really sure what much more I can say at this point, other than, yeah, I don't think there was any point where I started to not enjoy the show until I'd probably come on to online spaces, and even then, I think it took a bit longer because I definitely started watching Doctor Who YouTube around the time of Series 7 in late 2012 with Mr. TARDIS first, and then later Five Who Fans in spring 2013, and then going from there. So, in terms of not really having liked the episodes, I don't really know if there was one that straight away I wasn't really a fan of. Maybe it took a bit more time to process. So, like, quite a few episodes of Series 6 and 7, come to think of it. The Snowman, I definitely remember after the episode aired, the Clara death bit, and that kind of did throw me a little bit, and I did need to go upstairs to have just have some solace to think about it. Came back downstairs to watch the Top Gear James Bond thing that we had already seen, but it was being repeated again. So I watched the second, like joined the family for a second half or something. But yeah, that Clara death scene, the Victorian Clara death scene, and the whole reveal like there is other Claras out there. This is what the Doctor's going to be trying to do next half, to the second half of the series. I think that kind of broke me a little bit. I think that must have been the first time I was broken by Doctor Who, was the Victorian Clara death and reveal stuff. Oh boy. But yeah, I think in terms of actually disliking an episode, I think it's always, even the more recent ones, when I've had my critical hats on, like obviously that you've watched it and you need to experience the story first, and then after that, then you can start thinking about it. And I think that's what, even with something like Empire of Death and the Reality War, that's been, and Interstellar Song Contest, that's been ones where I have been a bit more critical later. I think the only one that might have been more negatively affected on first viewing was Boom. That's the only one I think I probably wasn't as keen on the most recent ones, watching the first time, and then maybe a later viewing was I liked it a little bit more. Maybe Space Babies, but Space Babies I watched the first Space Babies and Devil's Court alone first time, so yeah. Even some of the weaker episodes the first time around, I didn't really. I like, maybe I wasn't so keen on them, but less keen on them maybe later on. Like Orphan 55, I think that one wasn't really so keen on when I watched that, but probably went down more as I thought about it more or rewatched it. Again, others would go up, obviously. I think someone's home now. Yeah. Sorry, I thought someone was home and I had to finish the live stream. I think I should probably call it soon though, because it has been over an hour. I'm not really going through every single part of my Doctor Who experience. I just wanted to talk about first the Series 2 stuff, and then went on a little bit over the next couple of years. So let's wrap it up with let's wrap it up with the 50th, because the 50th anniversary was the peak. I think that was the peak, at least in terms of the like super and mega excited for it. That was that was the hype, the peak of the hype, and the celebratory content coming out around the same time. I mean, even if the last series beforehand was probably one of the weaker ones, as I've come to think, series. I mean, there's a couple of episodes. There's quite a few episodes in there I do like, but there's also quite a few episodes in there that I'm not so fan of. It's if I don't include the 50th specials, it's one of the seasons that has more meh to bad episodes as opposed to meh to good. With the specials, meh to good, obviously, but without them, meh to bad. And I did mention that in my ranking video of the seasons last year, not last year, 2020, 2023, not even 2 years ago, where I ranked all 39 seasons up to series 13. Series 17, 37th out of 39. So yeah. And the next one down, number 36, was 50-50. So everything else above that, including the two new ones that we've had since, have had more meh to good overall. But like I said, if I counted the special, Series 7 would also be a meh to good. But without the specials, it's a meh to bad. So I put it 37th, and then season 24 was the 50-50. The 50-50 being bad, time they're on it, and you may be surprised to hear this, maybe not if you know me, Dragonfire and the good Paradise Towers, which I think most people would consider the best, and Delta and the Bannerman, which I like. I think that one's good. I suppose quite a few people might consider Dragonfire the best / least worst, but for me, I would have Delta and the Bannerman any day. Like, I would have Paradise. I would have Dimensions in Time any day, and I think that's worse. Well, actually, you know what? Actually, no, that's not fair to Dimension. Well, or maybe if you take out that little girl stuff from episode 3, maybe I would actually no. Dimensions and Time is worse, but I would take it over Dragonfly. I would prefer to watch it over Dragonfly. Maybe if you took those little girl bits out of part 3, then maybe we can talk about it. Yeah, that's a thing. Yeah, Classic Who started getting into that in 2010. Had seen some bits, as I mentioned, with 2006, or bits in 2007, like bits of The Chase, bits of Attack of the Cybermen and the Two Doctors. Maybe some more. Earthshock I saw bits of in 2011. I'm not. I think. Oh, Time Monster. Time Monster saw some bits in 2007, and also bits of the Daleks in 2008. Not really sure if I saw any Classic Who in 2009, if anything at any point, but in terms of actually properly watching it, 2010 is when we got the DVDs. Don't know if I saw them before the end of the year or if I waited till after the start of the new year, but certainly late 2010 or early 2011 was when I started, when I watched the first full story properly on DVD, which would be Doctor and the Silurians. Then the Sea Devils and Warriors of the Deep, of course. And at the time, naturally, Warriors of the Deep was my preferred story, but over as I was 10. But as time's gone on, Critical Brain on is the weakest of those. But again, not one of the worst stories ever. Guilty Pleasure, the special edition version from the box set this year, is an improvement, of course, in the execution. But it's a story that still has potential. It's good. It just could have been better executed, and it wasn't as good executed because behind the scenes problems. Yeah. But yeah, I don't think it deserves to be considered one of the worst stories. I mean, I can understand it if it's personal opinion, of course. And yeah, I know it's the one that Michael Gray cited the most when he would put Doctor into Room 101, but fuck Michael Gray. So, and fuck Mary Whitehouse whilst we're at it. Anyway, so yes, and I think my favorite of the 3 now is Silurians, is Doctor Who and the Silurians. Even though 7 parts is a tad bit long, could have been 6. And Invasion of Ambassadors of Death, I think could have been a 5. You could have had a 3 episode. You could have 4 episodes because it was only 25 episodes that series. You could have another 3 or 4 parter that series instead of having 3 7-parters. I'm not going to say Inferno should be shorter. That one's fine. Yeah, I think that one's fine as it is. I'm not gonna touch that one. Spearhead's 4, so that's no problems there. I think Silurians could have been 6, so that's just 1 episode lost, and then Ambassadors probably could have been. I think that could have been 5. But hey, they're still really good anyway. Season 7 is one of the best seasons overall, so not going to complain. Just saying. Yeah, so those would have been the first ones. Remembrance of the Daleks was the next. Besides a bit of Airshock, Remembrance of the Daleks was the next one. And then it was Destiny of the Daleks and Genesis of the Daleks. Then we've got those at Forbidden Planet. I think the first proper visit to Forbidden Planet, and then the Cambridge one, and then as sort of a reward for doing well at school, I got a couple of DVDs, but ahead of Christmas, after the Forbidden Planet ones and before Christmas ones, which were Earthshock, Delta and the Bannerman, and the K9 Tales box set, which is K9 and Company Girl's Best Friend, and The Invisible Enemy. These episodes I also really liked, so you can kind of see where my Delta and the Bannerman love has come from. Thing is, I just, unlike maybe some other episodes I may have seen when I was younger, and I may have gone down in opinion if I really liked them, like Destiny of the Daleks certainly did, Warriors of the Deep did, and some other stories that I wasn't so maybe not as keen on went up, like Genesis of the Daleks or the Sea Devils. Well, the Sea Devils I thought it was good. but not quite as good. Well, I didn't think it was as good as Warriors of the Deep. Obviously, that's swapped around now. But Delta and Bannerman is in one way I've just always liked it. I mean, I don't think it's one of the greatest stories ever, but I think it's superbly, heavily underrated. It's fun. Yeah, it's another one of those stories that's trying to be camp and dark at the same time, and it doesn't gel. I can cite a couple of Colin Baker stories for that. Vengeance and Virus, even as good as that is. I don't know if Timelash is trying to be dark too much. Revelation of the Daleks in places. Terror of the Vervoids in places. I think Delta and the Bannerman's probably a strong example of this, but I can't help it. I enjoy it. I think it's fun. I think it's enjoyable. I think the fact that it's I think if it was more fun than dark, it probably would be more well received if they picked the tone and stuck with it rather than if it was more of a not so much a straightforward comedy, but more light and fun compared to say Paradise Towers, which turn down some of the campier stuff of that, and that could be one of the more darker stories, or at least dark for 80s Doctor Who, outside of the Colin Baker era, or season 26. Come to think of it, I think Happiness Patrol strikes a good balance most of the time. I think that one does a good balance fairly well. Maybe if they gave the Candyman a different voice, it might have been like a scary voice rather than a silly voice. Then maybe he wouldn't be the joke he is today. Still remains, even though there's still fans of the story, and I think he can come back for a big finish. But they probably gave him a similar voice to that. Correct me if I'm wrong. If you've heard that story, correct me if I'm wrong. And then, of course, Christmas 2011, I got the 5 Doctors 25th Anniversary Edition and the 2 Doctors, which I think must have been the first DVD of aside from Earthshock. I think the 2 Doctors was the first DVD of the story I'd seen either the episodes of or parts of the episodes of before receiving that DVD when they had been repeated on TV. So a bit like a little bit of Earthshock. So I think that was the first one, but 2 Doctors would be the first of the David Tennant era ones rather than, whilst Earthshock would be a Matt Smith era one. Oh, and I saw the TV movie, recorded it when Watch were doing a sci-fi week, and they had several Doctor Who episodes. Tortured Children of Earth, each episode was aired each night. This was half-term week in February, and a movie every night, and maybe a few other episodes, programs, maybe some Star Trek stuff as well. The Thursday night movie was Doctor Who the movie, starring Paul McGann. So that's when I first saw it. Well, not on the broadcast, but the repeat of it. Or was it the repeat of the +1? Either way, watched it. I really liked the TV movie, and again, ever since seeing that, obviously, critical minds coming around, and also watching the uncensored version on DVD because that was the censored version on broadcast. So W, as well as BBC iPlayer now, had the censored TV broadcast and VHS copy version, as opposed to the uncensored version that firstly has one TV airing so far on Doctor Who Night, and then it's just been DVD and Blu-ray 4K now for the UK version. Although they did mention at the BFI that they have done a 4K restored version that could be broadcast on TV should they want to do that. Whether they'll take that up on them or ask to have the similar cuts like the censored version, but still the restored version, but with the censored edits, or if they'll just stick to the uncensored version, which would be a bit of a disappointment. But if they did a special 4K restoration broadcast, then absolutely should be the 4K one. But if they're just going to repeat it at any point, then they probably just stick with the original censored version. Oh well. So yeah, and 2012 would of course be when late 2011 would be when the collection starts getting going properly. 2012 onwards was when definitely trying to focus on getting more classic Who and watching that whilst also watching new. 2012 again was until September was mostly, we didn't really have anything new apart from Pond Live in August. and the script-to-screen competition. The second one, this time for the Blue Peter one for the Olympics. The first one being on Doctor Confidential. But I suppose so. 2012 was a hello. Addicted to be Selectia. My condolences. Condolences for what? This is a positive live stream. No, that's a genuine question. Why are you saying my condolences? Because I've been a Doctor Who fan for 20 years? If you could maybe elaborate on that, that'd be great. Addicted, yeah. If you could elaborate on that, that'd be nice. Anyway, 2012. So I suppose because again, this was I had experienced the gap year of 2009, mostly gap year of 2009. It's been the least gap of all of the gap years. 2000. Well, I suppose apart from 2012, actually, come to think of it. But that's because the series split. Whilst the other gap years have been mostly specials, but 2012, because it was just the 5 episodes in September plus Pond Life, the minisodes, and the Snowman at Christmas, of course, and script screen, etc. Then 2012 was a good time for me to get more into the classic series. Now that I got a couple of the DVDs, getting more of the DVDs, I know got the Invasion, Peladon Tales, Chess Peladon, Monster Peladon, and I think Day of the Daleks for my birthday. Those 4. I even had the box set in my hand, like the wrap present. Like, oh, this is a box set. Which Doctor Who box set is? Went to Wikipedia. Like, oh, is it that? What is it? This one? Is it that? And it turned out to be Peladon Tales, which Master of Peladon is not very good, but Curse of Peladon's all right. That's a fun one. Day of the Daleks is really good. That one had the special edition on that as well, as did the 5 Doctors 25th anniversary edition. So those DVDs were my earliest with the alternate versions of those, as opposed to, say the other stories, even this Remembrance of the Dark special edition was just like maybe the stories, maybe they restored the story more special features. Had the Davros Connections documentary disc from the Davros box set, which was it's an amazing documentary, by the way. I totally recommend watching that. It's a bit out of date. Literally half, like it came out November 2007. By June, there was a new Davros TV story. So June 2008. So by the next summer, it was out of date. But if you just, and even going with expanded media, by 2012, there was a new Davros audio story, which is also when that one exclusive to the box set was made available on the Big Finish website as well. Like how the documentary was and the special edition Remembrance came out individually later on, because Remembrance was special edition was exclusive to the box set, but then got an individual release in 2009 with that documentary included. Which actually means it was the first special edition, but individually the 5 Doctors is, or rather the 20th anniversary edition is, the special edition is the first ever release. And that was because it has that 1995 version from the VHS, that special edition edit. I'm running out of drink. So getting more into Classic Who in 2011-12. Well, I suppose that kind of then helped with that peak of fandism in 2013, because come the 50th anniversary, I was not only had I been a massive fan of the show since for over 8 years at that point. 7 years at that point. Wow, only 7. But at that point, I was now heavily into the classic series. So yeah, and Matt Smith was my favorite, was my favorite Doctor. So yeah, so we got my favorite Doctor on screen, even if the series as a whole would end up being my least favorite of the revival later on, 10 years later when I ranked them. And I will include series 14 to 15 in there now. And one of my least favorites overall. But at the time, I really enjoyed it. When I got the Blu-ray, I absolutely loved having that Blu-ray in my hand, because it was the first Doctor Who Blu-ray. It was our second ever Blu-ray after Men in Black 3. Just had in late 2013, early 2014, that just felt like one of the best things in the world to me. I don't know why. I think it's because it was new and exciting. People kind of get like that when you get new and exciting things. um, yeah, I was getting Doctor Who on Blu-ray now. Woo! So yeah, that I think that kind of had a little bit of biasy on that series at the time. I think I might have said series. I might have had that as my second favorite series at the time because of that. Even though it's now my third least favorite overall and least favorite for the New Who. Oh well. Never mind. I think series 1 was, if it wasn't my favorite, series 1 would have been. It's series 4 now. But series 1 is still up there. But yeah, I just cheated the fandom because I was watching my favorite Doctor in what was at the time one of my favorite series, even though that was probably due to recency bias, and then because I got it on Blu-ray, it was new, and we only had one other Blu-ray at the time, and this was one film. This was 15 episodes and special features and several minisodes. And we've just come off the back of 2 more episodes. Wrapping up the era, so yeah, a little bit of biasy there, but yeah, a bit of biasy for recency, or because it was the new Blu-ray later on, and favorite Doctor, but also experiencing the classic series, so peak fandom because of a mixture of the new stuff and watching that as it comes out, and seeing the old stuff, going back to watch the old stuff and experience that, and not just on DVD because of the TV broadcasts of some of the episodes. It's a bit dark here. TV broadcast. Oh, that does make me dark. I can suffer this. TV broadcast of classic episodes they've shown with the US documentaries, The Doctor Revisited. Well, they did that for classic and New Who Doctors, but watching some stories I'd not seen yet on DVD or on previous broadcasts. Obviously, the 3 New Who ones were. In fact, they're also doing top 10 Doctor Who monsters on BBC 3 the same weekend the 11th Doctor ones, Doctors Revisited documentary and episodes were airing. And both had The Impossible Astronaut David the Moon because it covered the silence for the monsters. I think they came 4th on that, by the way. They topped the Cybermen. So they came 4th. But they would talk to this top 10 monsters, so forth, and then they'd show a story from the new era, new series episode. Interestingly, the Silurians one was The Man Goes to War rather than Hungry Earth Cold Blood, but they were doing the first 4 the first night, and then the next 3 the next night, and then they could do a 2-parter then, and then the last 3 the next night, which were all single-parters. I didn't question why the signs had to be 4th then. But anyway, actually, funny enough, the Cybermen one was Next Doctor. That again, that had to be single-parter, and it was only an extra 15 minutes to the usual 45-minute episodes. So, but yeah, they showed Impossible Astronaut David the Moon then, and I think it was the exact same day they showed it for Doctors Revisited. So instead of watching it the same story twice, we kind of just skipped one of the times. I think it was for the monsters. It's a nice idea showing episodes after doing it in a ranking, but yeah, it does mean you have to go through the episodes to find out what's more in the ranking, as opposed to the documentaries where it's more of a bonus. Like you got the documentary, and then you get to see a story with that Doctor. Which the UK changed the ones for the 7th and 10th Doctors. The US had Remembrance of the Daleks and The Stolen Earth Journey's End. We got Battlefield and Silence in the Library Forest of the Dead, respectively. To be fair, whilst Remembrance is one of my favorite, again, in that list from last week, one of my favorite stories of all time. We had seen that one. Battlefield, I had not at that point, so that was probably a good idea. And did we have any Dalek stories? I don't know if there was any Daleks. I think maybe the Battle Passing the Ways. Maybe they wanted to cut down on Dalek stories. I think that was the 9th Doctor one. So yeah, they probably just wanted to mix it up a little bit. They're having 3 Dalek stories, which apart from, if you include the TV movie with the opening, that's 4 back-to-back, sort of. What did they do for the sixth Doctor? Was that Vengeance on Varos? Might have been. I think fifth Doctor was Earthshock. Fourth Doctor was Pyramids of Mars, I think. So I think we got to that was when we saw that for the first time. Third Doctor was Spearhead, which I covered, and second Doctor Tomb of the Simon, which I covered in the in last week's video. And first was the Aztecs. And of course, Eighth Doctor was the TV movie. And they actually, for the documentary, the trailer was handled a little differently for that. As it was like, it's the one story, not counting a certain minisode that would air the week of the 11th Doctor's Revisited, which I think we actually got before the US. I think they got it on the anniversary weekend. We got it the weekend before. But we got the rest after them. We got counting down to a week up and until the 11th Doctor one, which was the week before the anniversary itself. Also the week of those, that top 10 monster countdown thing, and the weekend of Night of the Doctor. All ahead of the anniversary itself. So, yeah, you see what I mean about this being the peak of the fandom, and we've also got you had the Ultimate Guide thing as well. I've got to rewatch that at some point. It's on iPlayer. It's on the DVD and Blu-ray. It's fun. It's got some fun segments in between. I wouldn't have minded it just being a documentary, but I get the sense of adding the new bits with the Doctor and Clara in between. Yeah. As for the after party, I think I enjoyed that at the time, but I don't think I really understood what was going on most of the time. I think I'd probably, if I'd see it now, I could probably pick up on the, okay, this is how everyone's being treated. I think an after party and an after party show is a decent idea, but I think from what I've heard of it, it was a bit of a shambles, rather than as opposed to the other Doctor Who Live, which I haven't seen either, but I think went down better with the 12th Doctor announcement. Again, not a bad idea, just from the sounds of it, it was executed badly. So if it's being done again, gotta be done better. Gotta be better. All right, I think I will wrap it up with 2013 because the excitement for the 12th Doctor was building there. But it was during the 12th Doctor's era that I would come to YouTube myself and to content, even though my reviews of Series 8 and 9 would come much later, 2021, end of 20 for Series 8, start of 21 for 9. Kind of missed doing the Series 9 reviews at the time, but starting from Class, actually. Yeah, and that's mainly because of Universals, even though we didn't really do we did class reviews in sort of joint Livestream-esque discussion ones, and then the first proper ones were Doctor Mysterio onwards. So yeah, but I did do the individual class reviews on my channel, and then of course Return of Doctor Mysterio is my first ever Doctor Who review, at least of the episodes. So yeah, I suppose the first one is the Steelbook for Series 9, but for the first proper review, the first review of an episode that's just dropped was the Return of Doctor Mysterio in December 2016, or maybe at the very start of January, depending when I put it out. I think it was the end of 16. So yeah, the 12th Doctor's time was very interesting. That's just when the online. I suppose I'll cover this one quickly because I'm going to leave it around here because I want to wrap this up quickly. I'm not going to go through everything, so I'm just going to kind of wrap it up with kind of coming to when this channel started up and when Universal started up. And I suppose in a way it's somewhat poetic because in terms of the childhood, the last childhood Doctor was Peter Capaldi in terms of the first viewings, like not including the classic Doctors. So it was technically Eccleston, little bit more so with the repeats rather than the first broadcast, but technically counts for Rose and End of the World, and then David Tennant, Matt Smith, and Peter Capaldi. I turned 18 halfway through Series 10, so Peter Capaldi would be my first Doctor as an adult. And my first Doctor in my 20s. So I was 20 in 2019. What was the first Doctor I saw when I was 20? Because Macra Terror had come out on DVD and Blu-ray by then. I think that was probably the last one I watched as a 19-year-old. So could be that one. I'm not really sure what was my first story when I was 20. First new one was Spyfall Part 1. So Jodie for that. But overall, might be the Macra Terror. but that also probably was the last one as 19. It could be both, to be fair. So I guess Patrick Troughton, possibly. But again, if we're going for the new stuff, then like broadcast as what's airing at the time, Jodie. But yeah, in the end of what's considered legally childhood and start of legally adult, Capaldi was the last for childhood, the first for adult. Legally speaking, if you're going by teens and 20s age stuff, it would be Jodie. So yeah, so I'm gonna wrap it up with Capaldi because I'm just sticking to like the childhood stuff. And by this point, we're up to 2016 would be 10 years as a Doctor Who fan. And this would be like 2015-16 was the start of the YouTube stuff I mentioned. I did a video last year. Wait a minute, was that a live stream? That was not a live stream. 10 years of the channel. 10 years of Universals this year, although we did come up with the idea before Series 9 aired, but we were going to leave it to after Series 9 had and Husbands for River Song were done, and we just do it in 2016. Might have been a bit of a bad move because then we don't cover Series 9. But at the same time, we weren't even that prepared for when we actually did start. So, yeah, and then things went wrong, and we had to restart in the summer of 2016. So we're celebrating that anniversary in a month and a half, give or take. We're aiming for the 11th of July, which is the anniversary date of the channel of my introduction on that channel, which was the first video. Well, it was because fucking hacking in 2018. Actually, I think that introduction got left alone, to be honest. Did it? I'm not sure. Fucking hackers. Anyway, that's the reason why the first channel went crashed and burned, is because of fucking hackers. Oh, Universals is a magnet for them. Well, yeah, 10th anniversary of that, July. Amy, the 11th is the actual date, but around that time, Universal's 10th anniversary. The proper one, and 11th anniversary for the concept, and the next month. Yes. I guess that brings me to, because again, I'm wrapping up with ending after the first 10 years, first 10 or 11 years, and then the last 9 to 10 years has already been covered by this channel's content, and also the other channels I've done, and the Tooniversals. So yeah, you can see the last 10 years worth of content on those channels, 10 or 11 years on this one. Some of the other channels I made later on were like 2018, so a bit later on. I think bonus content channel, that was my second one. That came out late 15, early 16, after the first one. And then 2018 for the other two I've done, and Tooniversals 2020. But but this one then maybe bonus content, and then Hooniversals for 15 to 16, as well as the first attempt of bringing back Hooniversals, which is just Hooniversals. Don't really worry about that one now. It's just kind of there for outdated promo content. It's there, but don't worry too much about that. I can't even get onto it anymore. So yeah, just don't worry about that. So I guess that's up to, not up to date, but up to date of when the channel started in. I started the channel September 2015. I started doing reviews in June 2016. So I did do the Series 9 and Doctor Who Series 9 and Spectre Steelbook reviews, but also the Conjuring 2 and the Enfield Case movie review inspired by Ollie Pajak and his film reviews. So shout out to you, Ollie. Either if you're watching or you're going to watch. Oh, got another commenter. The Sky Dudes. How many doctors have you met? I have met David Tennant, Matt Smith, Jodie, 13's Master, Sasha Dewan for that. Yaz, River Song, Claris, which Amanda Gill, Alex Kingston, and Jenna Coleman. So that's who you've met. Right. I met quite a few people, but in terms of just the doctors, because you've asked which doctors I've met, as opposed to just which characters. If it was characters, I think I'd be here a bit more longer. But I'll stick to the doctors. Sorry about the brightness. Oh, that's too dark. Actually, no, it's not too bad. Right, so I met Peter Davison. I've met him at least twice. Yes, season 20 and season 21 BFI screenings, signings. I don't think I've met him at a proper convention. Sixth Doctor, Colin Baker, 5 times. Met him 5 times, 4 of them at conventions, but the first was at the season 22 BFI. I decided I would leave him to meet other people at the, I think it was the first 4 conventions I went to where I saw him. So that was autumn 23 and the 3 from 24 and the summer 25 ones. But autumn 25, I decided to leave it so I could see more people. Spring 26, it was an option because I am hoping to meet him a 6th time, so that would be 6 times I'd meet the 6th Doctor. But I was kind of hoping it might be the BFI for season 21 as well, because he's in Twin Dilemma and Caves of Androzani. But no, and okay, I thought maybe he might be at the convention. The same weekend he was, but I didn't meet him. So I'm still waiting for my 6th Colin Baker meeting. Showmasters, which is the ones I went to, the Showmaster London ones at Olympia. They're not doing any until next August. So the one that's going to would have been in 2.5 weeks' time, on the 13th and 14th. Is that 2.5 weeks? Because we got this weekend's May the 31st, then a week and a half would be the 5th and 6th and 7th. Yeah, 2.5 weeks' time, it would have been the 2026 summer one, which is earlier than the last 2 years, actually. But now, no more conventions till at least no more London ones until August 2027. So we're not going to get the autumn one. We're not going to get next spring either. I wonder what they're going to do for the YALC one this year. Then maybe they'll do their own. Maybe it will just be them. Big up on them if they do. Also, whoever did the that was the Sky Dudes. You dropped the sub as well. Thank you very much. And whoever did the thank you very much. Anyway, back to your question. Yeah, so Colin Baker 5 times. Want to do a 6th time, but might be August 2027 at earliest, unless maybe something else comes up first. Also met Sylvester McCoy at least 3 times. I met him at least 2 of the conventions, including the first one I went to. Same time I met Colin Baker for the 2nd time. But one of those other times I met him, I'd seen him after the performance, or just before the performance of Hound of the Baskerville, of the crime and comedy theatre show ones, the Bishop Stortford show one. So I think I mentioned to him then. Seeing him at the Christmas Carol and Sign of 4 ones that he did down there as well. Also really, really great shows, by the way. They're doing another run of Christmas Carol soon, so I do recommend if you're in a place where it's being shown, go see it. Same with Sign of 4 if they're still doing some of those. If they're doing a 2nd tour, I think maybe they're finishing that 2nd run. But yeah, Christmas Carol's coming back again later this year. Anyway, Sylvester McCoy, like I said, about 3 times, 2 of them at the conventions and 1 of them for BFI for season 24. The first time because the 2nd time because they had to re-show Happiness Patrol and they were doing signings then, but I decided to pass on it that time, partly because it was a bit late. But apart from one actress who wasn't there on the first time, they got her for the 2nd one. I think I got everybody I needed from that first one for that time. If I known that person was going to be there, maybe I would have gone just to see them, gone in the line to see them, but oh well. And then Paul McGann, interestingly enough, I've just seen him for the 2nd time at BFI for the TV movie, but I also saw him at Big Finish Day 2024 as well. He was the only of the main actor doctors, not impressionists, the main actors who've done it from TV, who also do it on audio. He was the only one there that day. I think he was the first person I met of those. So that was awesome. I'll do impressionists as well. And then Ncuti Gatwa was my second most recent, with back on the 1st of March at the most recent, and now until August last LFCC from Showmasters. So yeah, I missed him on the first go because the queue was so busy and like we missed the chance. But managed to get him the second time. Woo! So yeah, I've managed to see Ncuti Gatwa. He was a bit cheap at that time anyway, so it's what probably works out best in the end. So that was awesome. So yeah, and also David Bradley I met at one of the conventions, not the last one. I think it might have been one of the ones before, one of the recent ones. But I met David Bradley. So Peter Davison, Colin Baker, Sylvester McCoy, Paul McGann, Ncuti Gatwa, and David Bradley, plus voice impressionist actors Stephen Noonan, Jonathan Carley, Tim Treloar, and now John Coleshaw. I say now because he did do some Third Doctor impressionist before I met him, but he's now the 12th Doctor impressionist. So yeah, this is all at Big Finish Day 2024. Jonathan Carley, who had a nice chat with, by the way, about how, to me, as soon as I heard him in the first War Doctor Begins story, it didn't sound like he was doing an impersonation of John Hurt. He just sounded like the War Doctor. He was the young War Doctor. Excuse me. He was the young War Doctor to me. Then Stephen Noonan. I'm not sure if I met Tim Treloar and John Coleshaw after those guys. Actually, it might have been before. It was before or after, but yeah. So Jonathan Carley, Stephen Noonan, Tim Treloar, and John Coleshaw. Although John Coleshaw at that time had only been the Third Doctor impressionist in Mastermind, the Mastermind story. And also Mick would have done some audiobooks and stuff as well. But he is now the voice impressionist for the 12th Doctor after Jacob Dubman stepped down. He was the 11th and 12th Doctor at Big Finish for a bit, and now he's left to pursue other roles. Miles Taylor is now the 11th Doctor, and John Coleshaw is now the 12th Doctor over there. So I guess he counts. I guess in a way. So the only impressionist actor I haven't met at Big Finish, aside from I have met Fraser Hines. He has done some. Met Peter Purves. He's for the second Doctor. Met Peter Purves. He's done some for the first Doctor. I think I met Peter Purves 4 times now. I've met him at least 2. I think 2 of the BFI events. One of them being the Time Meddler. I think the other one was Galaxy 4. I met him at one of the conventions, and I met him more recently at the Cambridge TARDIS unveiling. So that was my second most recent greet after Paul McGann and Jeffrey Sachs at the BFI. Yeah, I suppose so. If we're counting voice, I suppose we can count Fraser Hines and Peter Purves. Not William Russell. Sadly, I didn't get to meet him. So if we're counting impressionists, overall it is Peter Davison, Colin Baker, Sylvester McCoy, Paul McGann, Ncuti Gatwa for the main actors, and the impressionists: Stephen Noonan, Tim Treloar, Jonathan Carley, John Coleshaw, and more so as their companions, but they're more well known for their companions, but have also done impressionists for their doctors, Peter Purves and Fraser Hines, and David Bradley, who also plays the first Doctor in Twice Upon a Time, Dr. Falls, and Power of the Doctor, plus William Hartnell in An Adventure in Space and Time, and has played the first Doctor in Big Finish as well. I suppose I can count him on the main lineup. So very good. So 5 main Doctors and one other actor who played a Doctor who's plays an older Doctor, but who was previously played by another actor, but he's filling in for that story. And 4 voice impressionists and 2 actors who play companions who do impressions for their Doctors in some stories, mainly before they got the voice before David Bradley and Stephen Noonan and not Tim Treloar, or him as well, actually, I suppose, and Michael Trouter. Before they came in, it was mostly the actors playing the companions doing the voice impressions for Doctors 1 and 2. And now we've got dedicated voice actors impressionists rather than the companions doing it. So yeah, a couple of those. I've not met Tom Baker. I've not met Chris Truxton. I have not met David Tennant. I missed him, one of the NFCC. Same for Jodie Whittaker. I've not met Matt Smith or Peter Capaldi. Would love to meet them. And I've not met Michael Troughton either. He's the last of the or David Troughton, the last of the Impressionists. David Troughton's done some Second Doctor as well. So yeah, that's the list for you, Sky Dudes, if you're still watching. That's the full list. Right. I'm probably going to wrap this up now because we're coming up to an hour and 45 minutes. And I'm wondering how much time I've got on my own downstairs or upstairs. I wouldn't care. Downstairs, probably should have finished it soon. So, and I've still got the real David Tennant Part 2 for Universals to finish editing. It's not far till done. But I've still got to edit some pictures. All the voice lines are matched. I've got to edit some pictures, and then it's the music, and then we're done. Shout outs to the 2 cameos of that story. I'm not going to spoil who, but you are Universals or former Universal members, so you'll know who you are. Yeah, shout out to Ollie Payne again for inspiring me to do reviews. And I think that's just because I mostly did the YouTube channel started because of going to college and putting stuff for like college films and shorts, and even some of my older stuff on there, and new stuff I would make, like the class skit, new Agents episodes, etc. But it was really thanks to being inspired by Ollie Pajak, as well as also before I became interested in filmmaking, I was interested in being a critic like Mr. TARDIS, like doing critical sort of thing. I don't think I'm quite as good as a critic as I am an actual filmmaker, but yeah, inspired by my original inspiration to get into filmmaking, and by one of my friends at college, one of my closest friends, got into critiquing. I think Series 9 Steelbook was the first review, but then it would be the Enfield, the second Conjuring film, The Enfield Case, and that's when it really started. That was the end of June, so I guess it was the Series 9 Steelbook, then the Spectre Steelbook, and then the Conjuring 2 review. Oh, what a good film that was, by the way. That was really good. I'm not a horror fan, but that's really good. Right, I think that's it from me. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.